My name is Cara Beckman, and welcome to my channel and to my journey. If you like this video, please subscribe for more content on this topic. I'm sure I will be making quite a few more videos about this. My incident happened in December 6, 2018, and today is February 16th, 2019. So it's just been over about 2.5 months. So this is how I lost my fingertips on my left hand. I used to work at this vegan juice and smoothie bar in my town. I really liked it there. It was a really great vibe, great atmosphere. They were really big on fresh, whole foods, and it was just an amazing job. So that morning, I had been there with my coworker since about 7 a.m. in the morning, and it was a very, very slow day. I remember it was quite cloudy and overcast that day, and not many people were in the mood for cold drinks, being it in December and all. So around 11 a.m., I remember asking my manager if I could make her a smoothie, and she instead requested one of our juices. She asked for one of our healthiest juices that we have, which is loaded with all of the fruits and vegetables. So I told her yes, and I began making her juice. So the juicer we had at this restaurant was a bit different from normal juicers. Most juicers at a restaurant will use some sort of heat as well as pressure to get the juice out. Whereas this juicer specifically was a cold press machine. So it would only use tons of pressure to push the bag of pulp through and strain the juice. So a lot of pressure but no heat to it. Ensuring that it was fully cold press. So the juicer part that we actually put the fruits and vegetables in is this long tube, and it comes with a black plunger that you would push in to help the fruits and vegetables go down to the blade at the bottom. Since my training and about my first week of working there, I was taught not to use the plunger. None of us used the plunger unless it was our last stroke of putting things in the juicer, because it was incredibly hard and difficult to remove the plunger and put more vegetables and fruit in before the pulp would start spewing up of the top, because the blade at the bottom is continuously moving. So any leftover pulp would go straight up through the top again and would land on our ceiling, which was really, really hard to clean. So instead we were taught to use our hands. You would put your left hand over and you could start putting fruits and vegetables in and then cover it again with your hand. So I was used to covering it with my right hand, and I would put fruits and vegetables in it with my left hand. So at this time, I remember I had put in a big handful of kale, some spinach, and some carrots. So that right there is a lot of fiber. We were taught the way to make the juices is you put the fibrous stuff first, and the more juicier stuff, such as lemons and oranges, last, to ensure that it would actually clean through all of the pulp and the fiber in the juicer. So I remember pushing the fiber down. I remember pushing the vegetables down into the juicer and having a lot of resistance. And so, of course, I continued pushing down, not really thinking much of it. We were also taught that you could kind of put your whole arm in, because it was a very tall spout, and the blade at the bottom was very low. So a lot of the time you could put your arm in basically up to your elbow and you would be okay. So at this point I had put my arm in and it was only halfway in, and I remember all of a sudden the blade or whatever was caught on the blade must have become unstuck, and I just remember my arm going suck down. It just got pulled in to the juicer all of a sudden, and I immediately felt pain and pulled my arm up, and I looked at my hands. I saw the bloody mess of my hand, and I started screaming. So at this point, I do remember everything that happened. I was in quite a lot of pain. I unfortunately was not lucky enough to pass out from the shock of it, nor was I lucky enough to be in shock and not feel the amount of pain from the injury. I could feel everything. And to this day, it still is a very, very hard flashback that I'm trying to get over. So this happened, and I started screaming, and my manager came running. At this point, I had started sitting, or I crouched on the floor, and I was hugging my left hand to my chest, rocking back and forth. And I was crying and screaming and just whimpering. So immediately, my manager yells at one of our coworkers to call 911, and she puts her arms around me and starts rubbing my back and telling me it's going to be okay and just trying to calm me down as best she could. Around this time, the owner of the company had actually just come in the door to this massive scene that was going on behind the scenes of our restaurant, and he immediately got my phone and called my boyfriend for me and told him that there had been an accident at work. I'll get into what he had said in the call a bit later, but he basically told my boyfriend to meet us at the hospital. And at this point, the paramedics had arrived. So at this point, I had been crouched on the floor for about 10, maybe 15 minutes, rocking back and forth. Because I was in shock, I didn't feel much except for my hand, because that's all I was focused on. And so the paramedics noticed immediately that my legs were starting to buckle and were not going to hold me up. And so they came around either side of me, helped me up, and helped me walk out to the ambulance. So right as I got sat in the ambulance, my friends grabbed me my bag, and we were on our way. I was given laughing gas immediately once I was in the ambulance to control the pain and try and get me through it. So laughing gas does not actually make you laugh, like the name implies. All it is a pain stimulant, I guess. And the way it works, or the way the paramedic told me it works, is that it's only useful while you are breathing it in. So unlike a pain medicine such as morphine, where you get a shot of it and it lasts for maybe up to 4 hours, this is something that immediately when you breathed it in, it would work and it would start to leave your body almost immediately after. So to get the benefits of this medicine, you had to continuously be breathing it in. And I was told to take big, heaping gulps of air of this, and just keep this over my mouth the whole ride. So after about 5 breaths of this air, I was starting to sway all over the chair and start rocking a lot. At this point, we are moving, and the driver of the ambulance tells the paramedic to put me on the cot. So he helps get me onto the cot, I lie down, and they strap me on. I am again still taking the laughing gas, and I noted as we were leaving the ambulance and entering the hospital, I could tell that the shock was starting to wear off of me. I was starting to kind of focus in on things a bit clearer, and I was really feeling everything at this point. And I just remember screaming, it hurts, please make it stop. At this point, as we entered the ER, my boyfriend had just arrived, and he saw me, came over to the gurney, and we were taken into a room. A couple minutes later, my father arrived. My boyfriend had called my father, and he arrived into the room as well. At this point, both my boyfriend and my dad have no idea what is going on. They have no idea the extent of the damage. They don't know much of what's going on. They just see bloody bandages and a bunch of bloody towels. So during the time that this was happening, there was actually a plastic surgeon on the ward that day. She does not normally work there. She is known as one of the best plastic surgeons in BC, I'm told, and she was there seeing a different patient that day. And she had heard of my injury and came down to the ER to take a look. This was when her and the other plastic surgeons came into the room and started looking at the pieces of my fingers that they had extracted from the juicer to try and determine whether anything was viable. I remember right when it happened, I was crying to my manager saying, please save my fingers, please save my fingers. So I knew what was going on. I knew that I had lost something, and I knew that I would need it to be stitched back on, if anything. So this whole time, I'm, waiting to hear the news, and the plastic surgeons are looking over my fingertips, and then she comes over to the bed and explains to me that unfortunately there's too much trauma and damage done to my fingers, and they were already amputated. Now, my boyfriend and my dad had no idea at this time what had happened, and I just remember looking at my dad, and he was as white as a ghost. I had never seen him at a loss for words. I'd never seen him that pale before, or that scared before. And that's really hard to see when you yourself are in a very vulnerable situation and you look towards, the figure that you are hoping to be strong for you. But of course, it's not his fault. It was such a shock to all of us. So at this point, my brain is in complete denial mode, and I start screaming, no, they're not amputated. Like, look at them again. You need to put them back on. And she basically says, we're going to give you a couple minutes. I understand that this is very hard for you to digest. Unfortunately, there was way too much damage. They're already amputated. There is nothing we can do now, except, stitch up the rest of the damage as best we can. That was incredibly, incredibly hard for me to hear. I still to this day have trouble coming to terms with it. I know that this is my reality now, but it's still incredibly tough when, a couple minutes, a half hour earlier, you were living your life and thinking about the exam that you were going to take that evening, and in a matter of minutes, your entire world and your entire life can be completely changed. So this is the extent of the damage that occurred that day. I lost the tips of my index finger and my middle finger, and I also lost the pad of my ring finger on my left hand. So now I will take off my little finger mitts that I have protecting them right now to show you. So please be aware, this is your warning. I will also put a warning in the description and the title of the video. If you don't like to see this, it is healed, but it's not the prettiest of sights. And if you're a bit squeamish, I'm sorry, but these are my fingers now. This is what I have to live with right now. Okay. Let's take the bandages off. All right, so these are my fingers now. As you can see, they are the same size and the same height, and are very vastly different from my ring and pinky. So as of right now, I do still have a bit of the nail on my index finger. That was unfortunately damaged way too severely in the incident, and I will actually be going in for surgery in a couple of weeks to get that removed. So that will be looking a lot more like my middle finger once it's done, but they look to be around the same. They're missing a lot of the length and missing the nail, and also a lot of the strength that I had in my left hand. Learning how to use things differently has definitely been a struggle, but that's a topic for a different video. So if you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and maybe follow my journey so you can learn a bit more about me and what's going on with my life and my fingers. Thank you, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.